Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And today's video is all about balanced druids. This is a spec that is near and dear to my heart. I've played this class for multiple expansions at this point, achieving rank 1 at the highest level of PvP play, spanning, I want to say, over a decade at this point. And it's very important to me that this specialization is done justice moving into the next expansion, as I really want to be picking it up. I'm hoping that it's going to be returning to its former glory that it has seen in previous expansions, hopefully iterated all at the same time. And if you want to stay up to date with changes coming in for the classes related to Dragonflight, and make sure that you're staying up to date so you know that you're picking the right class for you and you haven't missed a single update, because these things come in daily sometimes. It was weekly for a while, then it was daily, and I'm wondering if it's eventually going to become hourly, that we're going to see big sweeping changes to classes. So if you want to make sure that you're always on top of it, hit that subscribe button. And I am working diligently to be an excellent resource for you on my journey of getting to 100,000 subscribers. That is a long-term goal of mine, and I would appreciate your support along the ride. So let's just go over it, get my initial reactions to it, see if Boomkin's going to be any good. Greetings, balanced druids. In a future beta build, we're kind of sad that it's future beta build. I really want to play these talents on the beta at the moment. Balanced Druids will receive an all-new talent tree, but in the meantime, we are excited to share a preview of what that new talent tree will look like. Our talent tree design philosophy has changed considerably over the course of Dragonflight's development. Community feedback and the lessons learned through playtesting helped us identify good practices to follow when constructing a talent tree. Equipped with what we have learned, we've set out to update Balance's tree and bring it in line with our current design philosophy. So we get a little bit of a screenshot. I'd kind of have to guess at what these are, right? So this is like Starfall, maybe Stellar Drift, Shooting Stars. Is this going to be Orbit Breaker that high up on the tree? I mean, it's going to be pretty sick if you can get Orbit Breaker this high up, because it had this icon, but I'm not sure, and I can't highlight over it. And I see Wild Mushrooms here, so it looks like Wild Mushrooms have made the board. And I see a Wrath of the Lich King icon, and I know that from just playing Balanced Druid and Wrath of the Lich King preparing for its launch. I'm wondering what this icon is going to be. We got Full Moon towards the bottom. Not sure how much of a fan I am of Fury of Elune and Full Moon contesting each other and also being at the bottom of the tree, because they're just so integral to generating astral power for the Balanced Druid. Maybe there's going to be some other changes in terms of their passive generation. And it looks like they've flipped Circle of Life and Death onto the left side, and now it's only 1 talent point instead of 2, which is good, reducing those 2-point spending nodes so that you can kind of move more around the tree and get some more interesting combinations. So I do like that. Convoke the Spirit's still here. It looks like Incarnation is still here, and a lot of the pre-existing talents that were in the previous build. So hopefully they looked at the talents that were kind of like Shadowlands conduits that no one ever really wanted to play because they were just not very impactful. But let's see what they have to say. Connections. With this iteration of Balance's talent tree, we wanted to increase the interconnectedness of the talent nodes to allow for easier access to different options across the tree. In addition, we wanted to avoid awkward positioning where it was mandatory to take a specific unrelated talent to reach a desired potentially gameplay altering talent. So I'm assuming this means single target versus AoE, like having to take Starfall talents that lead into single target, but it kind of does that. I guess you can avoid them by not going down here, but I'd have to see this talent tree in the game. So definitely make sure you're subscribed, because I'm going to be covering all the classes. Balanced Druid is going to be one of the main focuses as well as soon as it's available in the game. But that was definitely a concern of, like, I have to take AoE talents moving into single target ones. New additions. Feedback indicated that there was a lack of new abilities, making Shadowlands and Dragonflight Balanced Druid play very similarly. With this iteration, we've introduced new options for players to be excited about. Some of those new options: Umbral Embrace. Dealing astral damage, so Star Surge, Full Moon, I think, are the only astral damage abilities. Has a chance to cause your next Wrath or Starfire to become astral and deal 50% additional damage. Okay, so Wrath and Starfire are, again, this is all dependent on tuning, but for Shadowlands, for a pretty long time at this point, they're like 1% of your overall damage. So buffing 50% of 1% is 0.5%. That's not very impactful. So depending on if they've tuned the numbers. Also, if this changes it into an astral spell, does it mean it's also on the astral school of magic, which is all schools of magic, which means if you got kicked on this Wrath, you couldn't cast anything else. That would be really frustrating if you were trying to get into your lunar eclipse. You got this buff. It's going to make your Wrath do what, nothing damage wise, and you get kicked and then you can't do anything. So, I mean, this could be really cool if these spells are tuned to do enough damage. Back in Legion, when they were doing a lot of PvP specific modifications, they actually went in and tuned Wrath and Starfire to do more damage as casted spells. And I really enjoyed Boomkin and Legion when they had made this PvP adjustment. So, it's really my hope to see adjustments made like this for all of the classes, at least when it comes to PvP specifically. In PvE, I don't know how much impact this is going to really have. I mean, if you're in a lunar eclipse, this Starfire is going to get buffed and you get a bunch of AoE on like a trash pull or something. But in PvP, this could either have really bad ramifications or maybe next to no impact if the tuning isn't done right, unfortunately. Wild Mushroom, a very exciting ability. I can remember thinking back to multiple expansions like, man, I wish they'd bring this back. And it just never happened. Grow a magical mushroom at the target's enemy's location. After 2 seconds, the mushroom will detonate, dealing nature damage and generating up to 20 astral power based on target's hits. So I'm wondering how many if it's only one target, because in PvP situation, you're probably only going to hit one, maybe two. Depends on the pets. If there's a Death Knight or something, you're going to get a lot of astral power from just spamming out mushrooms on their pets. Which could be a really cool thing. Also, will it have a snare effect? I think I saw a past update prior to this that talked about a dot potentially. So like, I see Wild Mushroom here, but I don't see anything connecting into it that would make me think that it slows or has a dot, which would be really unfortunate if it's just kind of a circle nature AoE hit basically for solar eclipse. I really hope it has some utility on it with a snare on the ground. That I feel like this version of it that you can't control where it goes has to for it to really have much impact in PvP. Denizens of the Dream. Your Moonfire and Sunfire have a chance to summon a fairy dragon to assist you in battle for 30 seconds. So you're just going to have like an RNG pet summon off your dots. I like the encouragement of trying to keep your dots up on as many targets as possible to get this. Is it only going to do damage? Which one of the talents would you possibly consider this to be a fairy dragon? Like this one maybe? Or down here maybe? Depending on what the fairy dragon does, this could be really good. If it's only damage, probably not too much. If it's astral power generation, it's going to be really nice, especially for the dot bit version of Boomkin, which is what I'm really hoping is going to be achieved moving into Dragonflight, is that we'll have like kind of like a Cataclysm style of Moonkin mixed together, maybe with like a little bit of Shadowlands and a little bit of Legion or something like that. Would be like the best. I still would love to see a talent that makes it so your Moonfire and Sunfire damage over time effects have a chance to cause your Star Surge to be free. I feel like long-term Balanced Druid players that played Cataclysm, played Mists of Pandaria before they turned Star Surge into a charge system in Warlords of Draenor can attest to this sensation of when you're keeping dots up and your screen starts lighting up and you're getting all the Star Surge procs and you're just popping Star Surges out. I'd really love to see that, even if it came back as an honor talent. Now that a lot of honor talents have been nerfed, actually, the fast cyclone is kind of been removed from the game, basically, with how much it's been nerfed. I would love to see that type of effect and playstyle brought in, especially given that we're going to be likely keeping dots up, trying to Starfall, trying to Wild Mushroom AoE people down. If we could couple that on top of getting Star Surge procs, it would basically be the ultimate form of Boomkin. Like, it would be hitting every single fun part of balance over every expansion that I can think of over the spans of time. So I'd really like to see that talent. Sundered Firmament. Every other eclipse creates a Fury of Elune at 25% effectiveness. So this is the current set 4-set bonus, but it's only every other eclipse rather than every eclipse. And what does that mean? Can I go nature and then go nature again and then go nature again? Because with given that now you can pick what eclipse you go in Cataclysm, you could do this as well. I think actually you might have been forced to go in the opposite direction. You wanted to pause yourself in a certain eclipse for a long period of time. I think it was solar at that time in Cataclysm because Moonfire turned into Sunfire and you had Insect Storm. They both scaled off nature. So I'm wondering, does this mean like I have to shift into the other eclipse and this means that every eclipse I get it, or is it every second eclipse? We'll have to wait and see. I really liked this set bonus. I'm glad that this one is actually coming forward, but this iteration seems a little bit weaker. And what are their plans now for Starfall? Because I think they talked about turning it into a circle on the ground, which I really didn't want. We appreciate the community's thoughts on our recent change to Starfall and agree with the sentiment. Starfall has a unique identity being tied to the caster, and we want to retain that identity. In the next Dragonflight update, you'll see our latest iteration of Starfall. Starfall calls down waves of falling stars upon enemies within 40 yards, dealing astral damage. Okay, so astral damage. This Starfall will count for buffing or casted spells. I was wondering if it was or not with Star Surge. Over 8 seconds, multiple uses of this ability may overlap. That is crazy AoE. Thank you for your patience as we worked on this latest iteration of the Balanced Talent Tree. We're excited to get it into your hands as soon as possible and can't wait to see what builds you come up with. I mean, I want to get my hands on this. I want to see this in action. Again, a lot depends on the tuning. That one talent that I talked about that I would absolutely love to see in the game. But I'm glad to see returning old school abilities, continuing the existing mechanics that were really fun about Balanced Druid. It seems like pretty much the majority of it for my potential issues is just going to come down to tuning and actually play testing it and seeing what we can do with it. So really exciting update. I'm glad that they decided to go back on this. It's nice to see that they don't just like make a post that says we're doing this and then everybody says we hate it and then no, we're doing it anyways. And they were actually willing to go back on this for identity overall. And I hope that this is the case for all the classes, of course. An interesting update. Could be really cool and awesome. I'm excited to try it and see what it can do. I'm maybe just coming across a little pessimistic just because the game has been about burst damage and setup 3-2-1 goes in PvP for so long that this type of build might end up just making Boomkin inferior and non-competitive, at least when it comes to Arena. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely bonkers in Rated Battlegrounds. I feel like there's no doubt about that with how many things you can do to AoE now. But excited to check it out. I hope that you enjoyed this update for the Balanced Druid as we went through it. And once again, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss a beat. I will catch you in the next video.